Morning. It is that time again. Let's do the news, y'all. And first, I want to say thank you for subscribing to Patreon. It really means a lot to me that I have something that I can be consistent and give value. I love researching. It is my first fetish. Santa's turned me on. I like knowing all that I can know. And it was really pissing me off when people had hidden information. I was like, I'm going to find out. So I dig up the stuff I need to know. The Oracle job for me is about researching and sharing the information that matters to our people. And we have been lied to for so long. That's a lot to have to sift through and figure out. And we are so in the Star Trek generation, and we don't even know it. We're so past it that, especially for you as members, I'm grateful you found me. And for some of you, you had to find me first, and I went, smart ones, let me go get them. That's why I'm here, and I wanted to make sure you are fed and healthy and can make decisions clearly no matter where you are. So my first confession is last night I was like, I failed. And but yet it frees me. So as I have shared with other retreat providers and event providers, go where the people are and move your soapbox to them instead of trying to make them come to you. And so I apologize because I wanted you here and I wanted to gather you safely. But the vision I had as a child was talking to people in these little boxes, little black boxes. That's all I could see. And I could see little heads in them. And I went, what's that? Why is that a thing? And at 12, I had no idea what the internet was. And when I was 52, that vision came back to me. And I went, that's it. And we're talking to these little black boxes. And hey, y'all, in your little black box. So I appreciate if you would, you're welcome to share these with your friends who need to join and the people you love, because it is the three things we have to pay attention to. Our health, physical health. Secondly, our intellectual feeding knowledge. When we have been starved of information, we need to feed ourselves. And I throw a lot of heavy shit at you because I know if you will listen to it enough, you will get it. And that is my intention, that I can prep you with the information and allow you to go deep so that you have the links here and you can use them to go further. And if you're not a member and catching this later on somehow, come on in. I want to hear, I want to help, I want to give as much as I can. So, as always, let's start with what's important, the weather. And I think I got this thing down, and I'm like grooving, and I need somebody to jump on and tell me if I got the sound right. Oh, share screen. Hello. Hit a button. Can I tell you a joke while you're waiting for me to share a screen? So Sophie Tucker's talking to her boyfriend, Ernie. Sophie Tucker was a precursor to Mae West, if you're old enough to know who Mae West is. She was older than her. And she said, Ernie said to her, Soph, when I'm 80 years old, I'm going to marry me a 20-year-old woman. And Soph says to Ernie, well, Ernie, when I'm 80, I'm going to marry me a 20-year-old man. And let me tell you, 20 goes into 80 more times than 80 goes into 20. So this is my, how we age joke. Okay, so here's the weather. The first thing I put is a quote from Ben Davidson, who does these podcasts every morning at about 6 a.m. On what is happening to the planet weather-wise. If you saw the catastrophic video, you got the geology about the history of when our planet is going to crash and or get hit or go nova, which is really probably the term we're going to see describe, and he talks about it here. And so what you're saying is the sun going nova, and that's how the sun goes black for 3 days. If you remember your biblical stories about the we lose the sun for 3 days, and it's a plasma ball, so it shuts off, and then it reignites. Now somehow we also have seen ships go in and out, so it's a portal. But this is a description he used, and I let's see. Well, it's kind of 2/3 of the way in where he starts describing it. They're 5-minute videos. Get familiar with the language. When he shows you the little charts, as long as we're in the green, we're good. When we get to yellows and reds, pacemakers, stress, people start going kind of like the full moon craze. You get the same kind of pressure going on to people, and they start losing it even more. So you need to watch that if you're in the public realm or you're on the roads. Know those dates, know when the full moon's coming, pay attention to those cycles so that you are in a rhythm and you can protect yourself. And you, Danny, who's on the beach, you in particular want to watch those tides, because it's well, tsunami hits, don't worry about it. We're done. You get out easy. Congratulations. But this is one of the ones he said. And when you see the light, because it flashes, and there's been a couple videos recently where we've seen that are 50 billion light years away, but we can see them. So and there's black holes lighting up and other novas going off. And that's because we are in a place of space where there's a lot of activity going on. And every time we hit here, it's high traffic. So that's what's happening on the weather. Okay. Let's see if I can. How can I make this switch? That's what I really want to do. Will I do it like that? Nah. Okay. So I have to unshare. Excuse me. I'll be sending a note to their technical department. Y'all could improve this just a tad if y'all. All right, try it again. I could start some lineup of jokes, but that would not be a good thing of our time. So let me stay focused. All right, so what I want to show you now is really on the American news and paying attention to what the people are doing. And it matters with movements that there's a protest for something, not a protest to stop something, because they've always got bigger guns. So when you're choosing where you're going to stand and take a stand, you need to have a goal in mind. What end result are you trying to accomplish, and why? And is that better? And how will you make sure it's better? So let's look at Puerto Rico, since that's the closest we have to the U.S., and then let's look at what has happened. And this is really a corruption story, what the background is here. But the Puerto Ricans got out and said, and they started protesting. And it took them a couple weeks to make that happen. But the guy did resign, and now they have replaced the person and put somebody in place that they're supporting. Very good. Bravo on you. Now, the second story is looking at the Hong Kong protests. And what is going on here? Now, this is this footage is just the Filipino workers. It's separate footage. This is not happening for this time. But the story is about 1,300 Filipinos in Hong Kong who are basically the maids. And one of the stories, and the photo that I used for this week's podcast was the one that was taken of me talking to Sophia, the AI robot owned by David Hansen at Hansen Robotics. And he's based in Hong Kong, so that's why I was there. And what I noticed on Sunday were all the maids sitting on the street corners, and I mean swarms, and Indian, Indonesian, but a lot of Filipinos. And they're the migrant workers that are there and do the hard labor stuff. But they get their day off, and their time they spend with each other hanging out. What I found interesting in their comments was they really can't, this is just a lot of quotes, I don't have any other pictures. They really can't be part of the protest, if you notice any of the earlier videos, people were tearing down the camera towers. Important piece to do in your strategy. Tear down the eyes that are watching you. Now, and turn off your location button on your phone. It's just tracking you. I was embarrassed when Google sent me a message last month, said that I only walked 5K in 1 month. Now, I'm in a small town. And I used to walk 5K every morning. So it was like, ooh, snap. And I didn't like it telling me and tracking me. So I turned off my location button. Mainly because I also have been targeted with scalar weapons, and a couple podcasts when the show went off the air, right as I got on, I went and I could feel it. And my tinnitus went up in my ears. I went, ow! It was ow! Damn it! So you've got to tear down the eyes that are watching you, and the only way to do that is old school. Get a can of spray paint. We used to do in the hood and cover that shit, but tear down those cameras and watch for the cameras that are watching you. And they're not looking for facial recognition. It's not coming this way. They have to look at you from the top down. So it's how you walk that they're paying attention to. And if you're carrying your little black box, then it's tracking you that. So the location, it'll nag you and say, you're not getting the weather. Or you can look outside for the weather, and I'll tell you the weather. You're getting better weather from me, not from CNN or ABC. So Suspicious Observer will keep you updated on what's coming your way. So that's Hong Kong. And what's also going to be important there, what Hong Kong is fighting for, and what all the migrant communities are supporting, is the extradition. China wants to be able to go and pluck them and go and take them to jail. And China doesn't have a habeas corpus. It's just like, we got you, you dead. You know, there's no ifs, and buts, or maybe. So their history is very clear on how they will deal with anyone. And so they're fighting for their lives, literally. And so bravo for them for doing the things that matter. All right, so let's move on to, I'm unshared already. Okay. What is next? Ananda. Well, last week you heard me talk about Alfred Labowsky interviewed Ananda Bosman, this fellow right here. And he was, they were talking about, 50 years later, the anniversary on the day out of time, the Mayan holiday of the day that is not in the Mayan calendar, which is July 26th, an alien ship came back and did a light show. And I was pissy. I was going, wait, 50 years, all we get is a light show? The fucking planet's falling apart. So my bad, my apologies. I thought I had finished most of the interview because I had heard this story before from another interview I'd done. But what Ananda does is like the last half of the show, he's breaking down the language and how they communicate by sound and light. And this video, which is a presentation he did, has got about 700 views for it. So a whole lot of people that can speak this language. Is the language, how do you start interpreting this language? Now, Shayna is our queen of language, who can also look at symbols, and I always send her crop circles and go, let's read the language, and I will be posting some crop circles next week and talking about those. And I want to interview Patty Greer, because she's the woman who's the queen of this and the crop circle woman, so I will have her on board to share with you how to interpret them and how to see them. Now, most of us are not on planet in spaces, England, most of Europe is getting them now. Silicon Valley is starting to get them, but it is the planet communicating to us, light beings moving around. So these are somebody, but that was a conclusion. This is not from outside. Anyway, Ananda, I'm trying to interview him too. I'm like, let me talk to you, bro. How do you interpret this language? And it is our opportunity and our our opportunity to get the information no matter where you're at, because one of the things, the benefits of not going to war, which was in our control. So bravo to the military white hats and the supportive intergalactic neighbors who shut down the missiles, who did not allow things to go off and go boom. And the antagonism is evident. But what is also evident to me is that it is self-turned. People are turning on their own people because they cannot start war. However, China is one. As Hong Kong would welcome the American military, and we have the Navy is surrounded China. All of China is surrounded by American bases. So the Navy has long been prepared, and they've been looking for a war, and they've been looking for a fight. Oh gosh, I could go back on that story, how I learned that years ago, but it's important to watch and make sure they don't start a fight. But 50 years later, we haven't started a fight, and Nanda says, we get to talk to them. So I asked, how do I get my invitation? Is this a personal? Do I need to respond? Is there an RSVP? Is there a deadline? And how do we communicate and make the connections with our ancestors, our intergalactics, whoever they are? Because I got a few words I want to say. I got something I want to talk about. So I'm like, you better call me. So Ananda, this invitation is out to you to come and see me sometime. Okay, next I want to talk about what his work is about. And what I have been following for some time is the 432 hertz versus the 440 frequency. So this is something Hitler became quite aware of and changed the music. Oh, that sound is awful strong. To shape our energy. It's a discordant. At most, all of modern music is at 440 hertz. It is a discordant that you don't know the difference. It is an edge that brings your body into because it's just a harmonic. 432 is a flow of music. Now, what they have done, which I'm very happy to hear, because I don't like 432 music. It's really elevator music. New age elevator music for the most part, and I don't want to listen to that. So there's some kids here. There's lots of rap. This is a sampling of rap music that has been flipped, which is nice because it's at this stage of the game, you could just keep all your old music, careful the lyrics, and just put a filter on it that allows it to be played in a more harmonic frequency. However, some of these songs I don't like at 432. It has a softer edge to it, but don't really care for it all that much. So again, all the links are in your Patreon page so that you can check that out and pay attention to that. So that's what's going on. And Ananda does a lot of 432 music. That's kind of his thing. So I'm like, okay, but I don't like elevator music. So let's go to Jordan Peterson, one of my favorite white guy professors, a conservative Canadian psychiatrist who has become popular with his books, 12 Rules to Live By, which just calls us to be responsible. And in his call is to responsibility. Interesting, his spirituality is coming along. I'd call him in stages of awakening. And he's a brilliant man. And I appreciate his saying, he'll answer, I hadn't thought about that. I need to think about that. And we'll do the time and do this answer. But this interview in particular is very interesting. He's with Patrick Bet David. And this is a Hispanic guy who has a very large Hispanic population. And I gave him a homework assignment about being a millionaire. It's a very interesting approach. But he gets it. And he's had Kobe Bryant on here as well. But Jordan Peterson kind of gets us to that. Let's look at our human experience and what are we going to change. One of the things that's interesting, he was asked about politics and if he would be involved. And he's kind of like, well, kind of somebody's got to step in and be the man in the place. I'm like, okay, do so. We will need leaders at another level. Now, I'm still kind of curious how this upper dimension experience is going to be for us, because I saw a stat that made my heart drop this morning, and I'm going to put it in a meme because I don't, I applaud those Twitter accounts who are just giving you a lot of detailed, specific information, but it is painful. It is numbers that say how many of us are going to make it. It's like, ouch. And 1% would be 70 million, but they're not even at that level. And when it kind of reminds me of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they're 144,000. And I'm thinking that's what, I'm going to do the calculations and see what it says myself. But I was like, oh, so that's where I'm going. Come with me. Who wants to party with just a bunch of old white people? Come with me. Do that. Okay. So listen to the logic, listen to the call to responsibility so that you don't get stuck. I'm so sorry, I mentioned the three areas: physical, intellectual, and spiritual. And I don't mean spiritual, but meaning opening up a connection to our other dimensional selves and who we are, connected to divine. We are fractal of the whole. So just keep that in mind. Alrighty. So that's Mr. Jordan. Hey, Mr. Jordan. Okay, now we get to the good stuff. Laws of karma. Ooh-wee. And this is, as I mentioned, these people who are mentioning things that are just rather difficult to hear. So let me read this to you. Karma is extremely real and extremely serious. The disclosure within all music, films, written and by the spoken word by your captors has to do with karma, the absurdly powerful force of ether, collective, that exacts balance within the hologram. And what's most interesting about this, and if you're not on Twitter, this is one of the few that I follow. I'm just looking for the people with information. I love the image too. It's kind of this divine that's walking through the galaxies, just kind of stirring shit up. I'm like, huh. Decoding the Hive is this Twitter account. And they're only, again, talking about sci-fi films. This is about disclosure because it is required. You cannot manipulate this planet without telling us. And they do it hidden in film. And that's why science fiction is the only thing you should pay attention to and watch as much as you can, because you will, Jupiter Ascending in particular is one of the ones about the harvesting of this planet by the dark side, who the Archons in particular and reptilians, they're coming for harvest. It's lunchtime, and since the planet is not going to survive its supernova, with this is kind of and few of us get to move up. They're opportunists. They're taking the opportunity to come and clean and collect. So who they collect and what they collect, I don't know, but I don't want to be in that direction, so I'm paying attention. There's lots more in here, but decoder is one of those deep ones, and karma is one of these real things that get put down and going, made jokes of. But it is the manipulation of our planet, which is what really pisses me off. And I'm just like, y'all wrong. We're going to do something about that. So that's the karma piece on this. Let's go next to Alfred Labowsky again. And this is a long interview, about 48 minutes. Lulu Mace, if you've not followed her, she is French gal. She's been doing it longer than I have. I started Goddess University in 2012 and started doing interviews then. And with a team of people, it was a little complicated, but Good Lord, and me with technology, it was even harder, if you can imagine that. And this is one of the older interviews of him. I was kind of amused looking at his ear. Look at that ear, would you please? I'm like, well, dude, what's going on? Where are you from? What kind of planet you from? Look at the shape of that ear. Boo, 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 boo. Now, there's one thing with the angle, good, that wild, the view of the world. But when I see something that, and both ears are the same, when he moves around, you can look at both of those ears. Finally, I'm just going, dude, who are you? Where are you from? He's written a book called Exopolitics. Follow him. Follow. And who he interviews is the people we need to talk to. Now, one of the women I've met here in Vilcabamba, she went out to go work with him for a while, but she's an old pistol too, so they didn't quite get along so well. It didn't last long, but I was like, dang, I had my Alfred in. But I have some other friends that know him as well, so I'm gonna try to get an interview with him. These are the guys I really like to talk to who can sum up, like I do, everybody else's research. But you want to start at 39 minutes because he talks about the really valuable part of being human and why we are so freaking special, why everybody wants to fuck with us, literally, and eat us and use us, because we are these incredible creative beings. And that's because of the mixtures of our DNA, because we have had 22 farmer planets come here and play with our soil, play with our bodies, play with our plants, play with our mammals and our amphibians and our avians. So we have been a mixture, and like a platypus, it is a mammal, it is a fish, and something else. It's mammal and fish. It's two qualities that are crossbreeding, and there's a couple species that way. So, biodiversity is what we are all about. And we're creative geniuses that are valued on the planet. And so that's why we've gotten help. And they've had to break their own rules of non-intervention, because I'm like, hey, y'all, we're getting fucked over. Y'all better help. This is kind of that guy, like, get on with it. But he talks about that. And this is a beautiful, if you want to be encouraged about who you are as a species, beyond our ancestors, beyond the color of our skin, beyond our politics of a flag, blah. What makes us special? And what is this planet worth saving for? And why is your life important? Why is your contribution matters? Because you're a triple threat. You got the brains, you got the beauty, and you got the color. So that makes it easy to enjoy this planet. All ethnicities have a special skill set in creativity. And I notice it in the body, when in dance and in language, and how the body moves. And I think I've talked about that, the way African Americans will dance with the hips, and Irish, like Michael Flatley, that very sharp staccato movement of the feet. And the Asian with the arms are very fluid with the arms and the hands, and very tactfully, beautifully done. But it's the Indian from India that has a full body movement, the Bollywood movements, where you got the whole head. They almost look kind of like they're robotic in a cool biomechanical way, that they can just move their bodies. Interesting. So I'm looking at the creativity of our species and going, look what we've done. And we've got the largest prefrontal cortex. We've got the biggest brains to be manipulated. And so that's the problem. But also, once we can take control over that, we can use it creatively. One thing I like, Ananda, look at the brain, baby. Look at that prefrontal cortex. He can't even grow hair. He got so much going up on there. So I'm like, I need to talk to that brother. So this is what's good about us, is just looking at what we have as a species. And I want to encourage you, please, know thyself that way, and let be filled with the value of who you are. Because it's, we kind of shortchange ourselves, I think, on what we can do and what the abilities of our species or limitations by our education, our money, our passports. And I go, well, wait a minute. We also know we can think something else up. visualize something else up. And that whole law of attractive manifestation work was, for me, is like, learning how to crawl. I was like, okay, well, what can I do with this information? What can I accomplish with this news or information that makes my life change? And every day in every way, I am, I said a lot of times I feel like I'm backing into the spirituality bit, and I'm going, what am I supposed to do with this stuff? How am I supposed to go from me at 12 looking at me talking to people in black boxes? What does that mean? To here I am, I'm not going to bring them in black boxes. In my funny little alcove. And what you cannot see is that I have a blue light up here. So it's a beacon at night. I'll take a picture at night and show it to you. But it's kind of a cool. And I'm up here at night doing research and working. I got my cord connected to the building, so I'm on it and paying attention to the space I have and the opportunities I have to share. So that's the news worthy of print. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm organized. I get it done in half an hour. All right, Miss Danny, how you do, baby? I'm gonna add you on for actually, let me just I'll wrap up and say thank you for joining. Please share the post. Get people to subscribe so I can just be a good oracle and do what I'm called to do, which is talk to you. Love you. Thank you. The book is coming along. I'm on the last edit, y'all. I'm not going to add anything else. I did look at the pedophilia stuff a little more. There's so much out there that's going to be revealed, but I won't be able to continue on that. And I've talked about that already. But I'm getting it done. I got my studio up, so we start recording in the studio next. This Thursday, though, I think I'm going to do another interview with Oberon about what's going on with men, and just look at the spiritual and not have an audience. I can dig a little deeper on some subjects. So, namaste.